Takes me like you to.
All right, everyone, it's 6 o'clock and good evening. Welcome to the Duluth Community Services District regular meeting of the Board of Directors. This is on the 15th of June, 2022. I'm Chuck Bowman. I'm the Director and Vice President of the Board. And in the absence of our President, who can't attend today, I'll be conducting the meeting today. Let's call the meeting to order. Roll call, Carol.
Here.
Johnson. Sandra. Rawson.
Here.
And Bowman is here. Robert is absent today. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First order of business as usual is the authorization for on-site virtual and virtual board and committee meetings. Resolution number 22-06 in accordance with AB 361. Is there a motion to move?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Carol?
Yes.
Sandra? Yes. Rawson?
Aye.
And Bowman votes aye. Let's move on to the sheriff's report. Let's see, I might note that last meeting we didn't have one, so you're covering a little more territory today, right?
Yes, sir. During COVID, but I'm okay, so it's all matters. Well, first of all, to say once again, I'll be back. And this last 2 months it's been quiet in a sense, but it's been interesting in some aspects. I flew with Star 9 last week. I flew around our community. It's looking nice. I see a lot of construction that I'm not aware of because of the side roads and everything. So I guess we're growing. I was looking for my product that's out there now and then, and fortunately, good or bad, I couldn't quite locate any marijuana out there that's still in our groves. So it's a good thing. An interesting contact actually last week where a lot of the residents do have second homes, third homes, and one being Duluth. And we had a situation where this individual just decided to want the property to stay there. So when the property manager showed up, they had a little bit of confrontation. The individual that was confrontational, this thing had a very lengthy criminal record. So if that does happen, just leave. You know, odds are that person has nothing to lose, whereas we do. So hey, you know what? Right, I don't live here, you live here. I know you, right away, contact us, and then we'll deal with that situation. End up dealing with that situation, and go figure, the individual was under the influence of controlled substance, had drug paraphernalia, had drugs, and also I arrested him for vandalism and trespassing. So, when I ran its history, oh my God, like I said, they have nothing to lose, what we do, so just don't escalate that situation. Always contact us. We have the Batman belt, the body armor, so let us deal with that. Also, we're in hot weather out here, and right now the fire danger is extreme from what I saw at the fire stations. And I was going over the calls for service while I was gone, and I guess someone thought it was okay to clear their property with fire. Not recommended. Do not light your brush on fire. Not a good idea. Take other measures for that, whether you pick it up and throw it back in your truck and get the dump. But please don't start fires. If you do see bonfires, because there's summertime, please 911. We don't need no fire breaking down our area. Like one thing that I noticed was when I was flying over, there's a lot of abandoned groves that are out there because of the heat wave and everything. Either they're abandoned, being cut down. but it's a fire hazard for us, and we don't need that, so be careful with fires, call it in when you see a fire, that way it gets taken care of really quick wise. At the same time, we've entered summer, and you know, the kids are out, so if you plan to leave the area, please contact the station, and we'll do security checks for your residents while you're gone. I recommend it highly. I saw some Paul earlier today. I think about a third of the houses that he checks on, I find doors unlocked. So at least you have another set of eyes, the person that actually makes sure it's locked up. I'll lock it up and everything. I'll call you and we'll just go from there. But for the most part, I'll lock it up and I'll run up the garage door and it's secure again. So please wait for those. I would say it's summertime, so please be cautious out there. Summertime, we have a lot of our drownings. So be aware of that. Make sure you know CPR. Obviously, I know CPR. But thank God we haven't had anything like that in our area. It's typically outside of our area, so that I'm sure with us. But that's pretty much it. Any questions from the board? Yes, sir.
Yes, you weren't here last meeting, and I wanted to ask you that. A while back, there was a San Diego, I believe, police helicopter going around. What was that about? But they were circling quite a bit, and particularly over towards the county line, the Riverside County.
From what I recall, look at the call for this particular incident, those individuals with a firearm that was shooting his gun off, and the sheriff down there would take care of that situation.
Was that a resident that was doing that?
Actually, it was a resident out there on the San Diego side. I do recall that. I don't recall the specifics, but he was firing off his firearm, I think the second day in a row, something like that. And once again, people called it in, hey, this is the location, the address. So when it happened again, there's already a record where it's at, so it was easy for them to narrow it down. Granted, where we live at in Duluth, I mean, I've been out there where I'm showing up, and it's like, it's going to go that direction. But yet I have a call for sure and say, no, it's over there.
Right.
And it's like it echoes. So it's kind of hard to distinguish where it's from. But when you have shots fired, we typically, if it's available, or helicopter will fly out, try to locate it, if not, give it away. But you never know, it could be someone because of a coyote attacking their chickens.
Sure.
And to try to protect their investment. And then again, it could be someone being silly. But always call. Like I said, I was going through your calls for service, and by them the calls were proactive in terms of the citizenry saw something, whether it was a person or a vehicle, and the conclusion where they actually need medical aid, help with their vehicle. So it's I like seeing that. Well, luckily that when I look at it, we've had a few where in the past where people have called and we take away somebody for drugs, warrants, or they're up to mischief. So I like it when our people call regarding suspicious vehicles and suspicious persons. It starts that way, and then it becomes an arrest or becomes a welfare check or take care of somebody. So like I said, I encourage people calling stuff in. If it doesn't look right, find that right.
What are the restrictions relative to firing shots on your property? Are there restrictions?
The ordinance says that if I recall correctly, I think it's 150 for shotguns, 300 yards for firearms, for like pistols and rifles. But you gotta apply some common sense. Because you have 300 yards of distance, what's the backdrop? Is there a house, a shed? Any type of structure, livestock, it's a no-no. So like everybody else does, they'll build they'll shoot to a hillside. It's not a lot of rocks, dirt to absorb the projectiles. But every now and then, I mean, I think I recall about 2-3 years ago, we had something to lose. There was a party next door, they got mad, so they shot their shotgun at the residents to get their attention. And then, we show up, hey, what's going on? Well, they had a party over there, and they shouldn't have a party, and so I shot my shotgun over there to get their attention. Well, that's interesting because pellets actually landed on their property at the pool area, and now you're going to jail. I thought, well, don't shoot at houses. One of those weird things, weird laws, don't shoot at people's houses. So I went to jail for shooting shotgun at the residence. It was well over 300 yards, but the backdrop was a house.
Right.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sam.
I just wanted to ask one thing. The one where you said, reported on, there was somebody that broke into a residence.
they actually didn't gain access to the property. The residents, they were on the property.
Oh, they were already there.
They
Okay,
they were there for actually 2 days.
okay, got it. Just curious. Thank you.
One other thing, would you repeat the phone number again for the residents to call in case they see something?
Well, if anything else, if it's in progress, 911.
911.
911.
Otherwise,
It's 951-696-4357. That's the non-emergency line. That's something like if someone told you we got here last week, or that's let's say it's a late call, it doesn't matter that the suspect's already gone and there's no sense of emergency. But since it's the crime in progress, or if it looks suspicious, it's not 911. Like I said, these suspicious vehicles and persons and the criminal arrests. So quite frankly, that's the best way to keep them out of our area. And like I said in the past, if we're suspicious, we'll respond. We have to respond. Granted, if there's a homicide somewhere else and we're serious, we'll respond. And even if the person leaves, the deputy goes up there. Maybe the individual goes in the bathroom, whatever, but they see that the deputy drives by in that direction. No, don't come up here to urinate or whatever, go somewhere else. It's always, plus, it's always good to put our clerks out there.
thank you.
All right, thank you. And just as a brief comment, about 2 years ago, you locked my door for me when I had gone on vacation.
I'd say,
I was telling myself, this is not what, I'm not going to forget that, but I did. Thank you. It's time for public comments. Jessica, do we have anyone online?
We do, however, they're both muted at this moment.
So no comments online or in,
Yes, hello. I would like to speak.
I'm sorry.
I would like to speak.
Okay, who is this?
My name is Shauna Django.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you.
We have a 3-minute time period. Jessica, will you do the timekeeping for us? And please give us a 1-minute warning before the end. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I was sent a cease and desist letter from the Sandia Creek Road Committee demanding that I delete my YouTube public service announcement video and social media posts where I discussed my objections and allegations against the Sandia Creek Road Committee and the manner in which they obtained a building permit to construct 2 private toll gates, which in my opinion and from my investigations used illegal or unethical maneuvering with public officials. I believe they sent it to me to wrongfully threaten and coerce me as a method of retaliation and harassment, and is in a violation of my First Amendment right to free speech in connection with this very public issue that affects local communities and the public at large. The Sandia Creek Road Committee obtained my personal email dated June 10th, 2021 to County PDS Planner Nick Koutafidis, warning him that he may have been misled by members of the Sandia Creek Road Committee and others in order to obtain the gate permit under false pretenses and confidential details relating to my discoveries. My emails should have remained confidential and not provided to the Sandia Creek Road Committee in order to protect me from retaliation. As a result, I have faced retaliation in the form of a cease and desist demand letter and now fear for my safety and well-being. I had hoped the proper local authorities would view what I discovered first, but to date, they have had no interest and refused to view any of the evidence that I had to provide them. I wish to submit my statement due to the walls of inaction by our local governments and the threat of civil and criminal prosecution in order to defend and protect myself. And because I believe the cease and desist demand was written to portray my opinions as lies and criminal actions and to threaten and to silence me. The
There's
statements.
1 minute left.
Thank you. The statements in my letter are my opinions that any person would reach with all the relevant facts and evidence that I know. I believe that I have uncovered backroom dealings by public officials in order to approve the Sandia Creek Drive private toll gates. I wish to keep releasing more videos about my investigations relating to public matters until the proper authorities begin to investigate, whoever that may be. I'd like to submit my full statement for the public and for you today. Thank you.
Okay, that's within our time limit. Thank you. Any other comments?
No.
Okay, let's move on to agenda item E, which are items included for information only. They're in the agenda for review. Any questions from the board? Comments?
No.
Okay. All right, let's move on then to item F, which is our consent calendar. And this includes items such as the minutes from the past meeting, the general fund claims, the sheriff's special tax claims for May, and any purchase orders. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, is there a second to approve these? I'm sorry, motion to approve.
Yes, I'll motion to approve.
A second?
I second.
For the vote, Carol?
Aye.
Bill Santry, Rawson?
Aye.
And Bowman votes aye. That's approved, thank you. Okay, the next item G is a continuation of a process that started at the last meeting and is the public hearing on ordinance 22-03. Mr. Emmons, can you give us a review on that?
Yes, this is the annual levy of the benefit assessment pays for our roads. And the tax previously on the ballot 30-some years ago, I believe, which funds law enforcement, and that's why we call it sheriff tax. So those two items comprise all the revenue of this district. Each year it must be reenacted by the board. So at this time, it would be appropriate to hold a public hearing on approving that ordinance, levies those fees and taxes. So the appropriate motion would be to introduce ordinance number 2203 for second reading by title only, the further reading be waived, and that ordinance number 2203 be adopted.
Is there a motion to approve?
So,
And second?
Aye.
Okay, we will now open the public hearing on this ordinance for comments from the public. Do we have anyone who wishes to comment?
Anyone from
No.
virtual?
No.
Okay. That is then closed. The public hearing is closed. Any questions or comments from the board members? If not, we'll vote. Carol?
Aye.
Bill Santry? Rawson?
Aye.
And Bowman votes aye. That's approved. Thank you. On to agenda item 8, which is also a public hearing and a board vote on resolution 22-11, which is the annual budget. Mr. Emmons, can you give us a brief on, review on that?
Yes, this is the flip side. You just dealt with revenue. Now we're at expense. At the last meeting, we conducted a workshop on the actual budget document, which is the document is before you currently. We'd be happy to entertain any questions or comments on that. We did discuss some items at the prior meeting, but we could do that now after the public hearing. So at this time, it would be appropriate to introduce resolution 2211 by title only, the further reading be waived, and that resolution 2211 be adopted.
We have a move, second.
I'll say.
It will now open the public hearing for comment from the public on the resolution. Is there anyone requesting to speak online?
No.
No. Okay, in that case, we'll close that public hearing and continue on to the vote. Any questions from the board or comments? Okay, let's go to the vote then. Carol?
Aye.
That's it, I got.
Ross, aye.
And Bowman votes aye. So that is approved. Thank you. Next, on to agenda item I, which is a notice to the California Environment, a notice for the California Environmental Quality Act. Can you give us a brief review on that?
This is really a housekeeping item. When you adopt an ordinance, you have to make a determination that it doesn't pertain to or is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. The action we took was not an environmental impact. So passage of this notice will enable the vice president and myself to sign the document, send it to the county recorder, which is where the documents go. And what you're essentially saying is we foresee no ecological impact of the action we took. So this would just take a simple motion second.
Any questions, comments from the board? Is there a motion
Yes, I'll move.
and a second?
I'll say.
The vote, Carol?
Aye.
Ellis Country?
Ross, aye.
Watson? And Bowman votes aye. And so that is approved. Thank you. Next is consideration, item J is consideration of resolution 22-12. Mr. Emmons, once again, can you give us a review on that?
This resolution continues the tradition of putting the taxes and charges that you just adopted tonight on the county property tax bill. And it's not part of the property tax, it's that section below, bonded indebtedness, things like that. You all know where it is. So anyway, this resolution 2213, 2212, makes that happen and fulfills all the obligations we have to the county tax collector.
Do we have a motion to approve resolution 22-12? Yes. And a second.
I'll second.
Okay, for the vote, Carol?
Aye.
Ellis Country? Yes.
Ross, aye.
And Bowman votes aye. So that again is approved. Thank you. Next, we have resolution number 22-13, which is the district board compensation and reimbursement policy. And Mr. Simmons, do you have a comment on that?
I do. I was going to say that back around 2006, the legislature passed a law called AB 1234. And out of that law came the ethics training for board members, 2 hours, usually every other year, I believe it is. And then another thing that came out of that same law was that board members must set a policy on what actually are the days in which you can get compensated for it. So, and around 2006, the Duluth board adopted this policy. So what we're doing now is just simply updating that 50-year policy.
So that brings us up to current law.
I figured, yes, a lot of the language is just reflecting some of it's just identically, we just cut and pasted right out of the statute on what days are allowed. It does allow the board to decide what kind of conferences can be compensated. So we added in the California Special Districts Association and the League of California Cities. The only requirement is that when you come back from one of those conferences, you provide the other board members with a written report, and usually it's something oral at the meeting from experience at these conferences. And so it just goes through and talks about meals and lodging. One of the things that Jim and I just noticed tonight, we'd like to actually have you adopt it, but maybe with the change. The old policy allowed for board members to take their personal cars to a conference anywhere in Southern California. We think that that probably is outdated in today's world. You might need to drive to Sacramento or Monterey, maybe even Las Vegas. So we would, rather than just limiting mileage reimbursements to Southern California, we recommend that it be replaced with California, Arizona, and Nevada.
And so
That's,
the vote tonight will be with that amendment
yes.
in place. Any questions from the board?
No.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Rather than specifying other state, specify the meetings that are appropriate. Why not just say wherever those meetings occur?
I think that would be acceptable. I'm gonna go back and check that. Off the top of my head, I don't see why that change could be made.
Well, let's do it your way rather than since there is some question about.
Yeah.
About, I
Yeah,
just,
I just noticed it. I don't know why I didn't notice it before tonight. I had one of my associates working on this policy, and I just never even noticed that there was even a limit. So, but if there's no limit, I could, verify that tomorrow when I get back to the office and place that in.
whatever the board would like. I think that's actually better because it could be one of these meetings that may not be in one of those states.
And if you chose to drove to it, it's just only taking like a personal car. I was just thinking most likely if a conference was in, say, Denver, you'd probably be fine to that.
That's true.
Would it be appropriate to change the change to be in line with whatever the current law is with any restrictions that they may have?
Certainly. That would be
Okay, perhaps does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think either way, you're right, that the likelihood that you would, and this is only for driving, you would drive to a meeting in Denver or outside of those states is pretty unlikely. Oregon or Washington or something like that. So I think we can leave it the way you had it.
Okay.
I think that's fine.
very good.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, then is there a motion to approve?
So
Second,
I'll second.
the vote, Carol? Bill Sandra?
aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
And Coleman votes aye. That's also approved. Thank you. Okay, we're at item L, which is the traffic and enforcement matters from our traffic engineer.
Have a quick little presentation for you. Next slide. So same thing, we have a changeable message board out on the cruise, ready to put the notice up for the stop signs that are coming in shortly. We reported last month that Rancho Cal and Duluth got brand new striping, and last month being April, sorry. And then in May, the county did one better. They covered all that brand new striping back up on Rancho Cal with some nice slurry seal. It's almost finished. They have the lines back in and the legends back in, and we're just missing the raised pavement markers, so. following up on that. This is just a list of the normal stuff that we kind of went through for the last month. Nothing too exciting in there. Next item is the stop signs, which Dustin will be talking about. And that's my report, and I'll answer any questions that you have.
Any from the board? No. Thank you. Let's move on then to item M, which has a little more. But this is actually an ordinance to amend existing weight limits, provide for certain exemptions. Mr. Emmons, would you give us a review on that?
Mr. LeBrey will momentarily be giving us a brief staff report on the details of this item.
Right.
I'd just like to present the motion, which would be ordinance number 2204 be introduced by title only, that further, for first reading by title only, the further reading be waived, and that ordinance number 2204 be passed in second reading at your next meeting.
Okay, is there a motion
So moved.
and a second?
I'll second.
Is this the appropriate time for Steve to give us a little more detail?
Yeah, so basically what this is we promised you when we passed the original ordinance 3 months back was that local vehicles would not be subjected to this. If you're making a delivery to one of the local streets in the neighborhood, this road is not off limits for you. And so that we had an incident where a citation was issued, and it raised the question is that, why did they not know the rules of this? How the vehicle put in or their enforcement? So we're just doing is clarifying in the ordinance and with a few extra lines to just be very, very specific to say it's not intended for buses, emergency vehicles, trash trucks, all these other people who need to use the road and stuff like that, including local agricultural trucks and stuff like that. So no change other than just to clarify what's already written in the California vehicle.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay, then for the vote, Carol.
Aye.
Johnson.
Johnson, great. Aye.
Ross and I.
Dustin, aye. And Bowman votes aye. So that is also approved. Thank you. Now, Mr. Stein, it's time to review once again Buena Vista.
Yes, thank you, sir. So I come with, unfortunately, the same kind of news that I've been having lately. One day I'm gonna come here and put a big smile on my face and give you the good news, but we're still trying to get this last Army Corps permit. But luckily the Corps has been very responsive, which is unusually the case, but they're just having trouble with this last step, getting responses from all the tribal consultations. So we're still sending follow-up emails as much as we can. I did get out of it. This is basically one of the last step in the process. And once they get this all figured out, we're all full speed ahead from there. But we're still trying to reach out. So still have the reminder on our calendar every week. Just keep following up with them and get them to figure this last step out. But again, they usually fall in line with the regional water board, so I don't have any concern on anything being held up beyond what's being held up right now, any more comments coming. So, we'll just keep pushing. Unfortunately, environmental works on their own kind of pace.
None of this deals with any kind of issue, it's just the timing.
Not that they brought to us. They haven't brought anything as an issue. So it's, it's in line with everything else we've had. It's just timing wise, it's not moving fast. Not moving as fast as we would like. So
yeah.
So that's basically my report on the environmental right now.
Okay.
What kind of, I have a question. What about the contract? Talking about, with the contractor about the potential for delay. Was that, as I understood it, at the time we talked about it, it wasn't. It was still in negotiation with the contractor. Has that been settled?
Yes, I believe at the last meeting, we authorized that negotiated amount, which, that's the negotiated amount that, the contractor will be coming back for.
And the timeframe for that, where it's, that stays valid?
The timeframe was, so the original timeframe was 180 days. So it should fall somewhere in line with that. Just gotta keep following up. I'm gonna keep them as posted as possible, but, we're keeping, you know, we're expecting this permit to come, but we don't know exactly when it's gonna come. So
I
I
understand
don't
that,
know
but
if it's-
you say, so that's definite in the contract that it's 180 days.
That was the original contract language, so.
I believe it was always forward 180 as the proposal, and so,
That's the question.
yeah, I think it's the deal that you struck, approved by the board, was good for another 180.
That's correct. It falls in the original contracts.
Well, it used the same.
Yeah.
I'd have to check.
And the other thing I think Chuck raised at the last meeting was the potential of buying some of this now. Whether it's whatever, okay, and rather than waiting and having to pay more later on, look into that.
We have looked into it, so I'm still, I can talk more to the contractor about getting that actually set up, but getting us on the list, but we're not on that list right now. Hoping that we have this, some more, talks with the Corps about how fast it's gonna come. Hoping we get something solid before I can get that, but I can get them to just order everything. And hopefully get that secured on site. So that has not happened, but it can proceed. I think we can just go right ahead with that without any kind of.
I'd start on that tomorrow.
And that does take a change to the contract though, doesn't it? Because they would need some backup for funding for buying that material in the event that we back out or something.
Yeah, we would have to make a
Or
payment.
we ran to the end of the 180 days.
Yeah, and we would have to make a payment to them basically, and we'd have to have the language to say that if that does happen, but hopefully it won't. That would be district material at that point.
Right.
Contract would
Yeah.
not have any rights to it. Right. We pay for just material, obviously, labor, quick delivery, labor, no labor.
So the action, if you were to go forward, would include changing the contract so that it was clear that that became district owned
I
material.
think we would do this a little bit differently to get around what, because you're absolutely right, we have to change the contract. We would buy the material.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I suggested.
And then we could take it, if that occurred, we could take it to any contractor. So we've got the material, and then we don't have to amend the contract with them again,
That's good.
It takes too long. So if you've got a vendor, can we store that? Yeah. So I'd say move in that direction right away.
And
Because I
that's,
think that was kind of the board direction last time, is let's get this material procured. So that would be the way to do it.
Okay.
Just, we'll buy it, we're gonna pay for it anyway, so. And then just, if they want to deliver, they want to deliver it, we'll figure out how to, where to put it.
yeah, and that's, so I guess the only contract change there would be that price would have to go down. Their pipe price would have to go down.
Right.
To cancel out that
You can
construction
do
cost.
that later.
Yeah, we can do the math on that.
Right.
We can just take that cost out. I think that, that should be, that shouldn't be an issue. I don't see why,
So we can talk about it.
As long as we have a place to store that.
And get going on that.
yeah, I guess the only difference would be then it would be the district's responsibility to store that. And the contractor, oh, yeah.
Just a comment that the vagaries of construction costs. And I know my timeframes may be off, but about a year ago, the price for wood products went out of sight. But it wasn't that much longer, much later, that they dropped again. So, I mean, I still think this is a good idea because it looks to us like the transportation issues and other issues, supply issues are going to be much longer than just a few months. So I think that's the,
I agree, yeah, the general trend is always go up. You know, there's spikes and
yes,
it's, but the general trend is
That's
always.
a petroleum-based project, so the likelihood of that being short-term is, at least within the scope of this project,
right.
is probably not realistic. Okay, thanks, Ron. Mr. Wyatt, can you bring us up to date on the road maintenance?
We're just doing
Sure. Yeah, sure. Thank you. First and foremost, you have our new employee, started last week.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris.
Chris.
So far, he's been great. He does have a pretty good background in different general, construction type environments, as well as he has a Class A license, which definitely helps us out. Unfortunately, I think that our last meeting, we, damned ourselves when we were talking about not having, too much dumping of trash, because within the last week or two, we've had more trash than I've seen probably in a year. So that's unfortunate, but I guess it is about that time, spring cleaning or heat cleaning, whatever you want to call it.
Is that distributed across the district, or are you finding certain places that?
Like, usually it is more specific. Right now, it's everywhere. So there isn't any specific areas. It's more or less just spread out. We actually had a load of trash dumped out in front of our yard. That's new. It's never had that happen. So that was interesting. If you're just getting very grainy, it seems like right now. So that's unfortunate. But so far, we've been able to keep up on it. And hopefully, it kind of dies down soon. Graffiti and everything like that, still saying the same. We haven't had an issue with that. I don't have much to show, unfortunately, because we've still been dealing with weed abatement, as is the time when we spray. Just because it's so hot, we don't have many other things we can do that are safe to do during this. That and tree work. Been doing all of that, catching up on as much as we can, especially now that we have our full crew again. Definitely been doing more tree work. Coming up soon, we also have a project where we're going to be correcting a pipe, 3 pipes actually, via Yerba, via the Farah. These pipes have been going downhill fast. And our goal is instead of ripping off the road, dealing with all that, we're actually just going to essentially line the pipes in-house using a smaller diameter pipe. And our goal would be to alleviate the amount of erosion potential for it to collapse in the future. That would just be us doing our due diligence to make sure that that doesn't happen. Because unfortunately, that specific area would be a very expensive fix. So we're going to do that in-house to prevent that.
Is the degradation to the existing pipes going to limit the size of the new pipe to where it would be potentially a choke point or an issue?
So the diameter of pipe that we have will still be able to handle plenty of flow of water. Out of the 3, 2 are going to get a smaller diameter of pipe in them. And because we're going to be using HDPE, which is that high density plastic, it will keep it a smooth bore pipe. It will allow plenty of water or any sort of sediment in that area to flow through without any restriction. And it's our best option to prevent any sort of further damage in that area. It's one of those areas that even when it does rain, it doesn't get too much water, thankfully. So that is a good thing. But like I said, as the degradation of the pipes has progressed.
And you're able to do a good enough of a seal that it's not going to further erode between the two?
Yes, sir. So it'll be, these pipes have rubber gaskets, essentially. Those will be held together.
Okay.
And then on the inlet side, we're going to actually, we're going to set it in concrete. So it won't create water that will be allowed to pass around or underneath of the pipe.
Right.
So, other than that, it's been pretty quiet. We've just been doing what we can to keep up with general maintenance.
And I presume we're going to see a savings for the district doing that in-house and as opposed to
Yeah, so
letting it rot out and replacing it.
price or anything like that. I had a contractor go out just to look at it, just to see what they would do or recommend.
Right.
And it was Myriad Development, and it was the time when they were doing the Sandia Creek project actually. And they estimated anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 to fix this fully. And really, I had two contractors just come look at it, just to get an idea. Unfortunately, nobody really wanted to touch it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, it's 15 feet deep, it's actually the deepest pipe that we have besides Sandia Creek, the one that already washed out. And we know how that went. Yeah. So we're trying to avoid that, certainly. I think this will be a good remedy for the situation. Other than that, everything's been pretty quiet.
Any update on the new skid steer?
Unfortunately, no. No update on the skid steer, besides that, a piece of equipment's already been sold. And that they have the attachments, because I've already contacted them, I'd like to take in our property as much as we can. So if we can't take in the skid steer, I'd still like to have the attachments at minimum, in case we need to rent a skid steer, at least now we have the attachment. So they're gonna be working with us to give us the attachments in the meantime. And they've been great with that, so that should be happening here in the next couple of weeks. So we're looking as of right now, we're looking at delivery date probably around December. And that concludes it.
Next up.
Absolutely.
Item P is our committee reports, and there are no reports this month. Mr. Raymond, would you like to enlighten everybody on what that is?
Yeah, I think it's every 7 months, the calendar is such that the regular board meeting, this meeting, falls ahead of finance committee, so that would occur a week from now. So a little late to make reports tonight, and the engineering would have occurred last night.
Yeah.
So it's generally over the years, the district is just gone dark for the committee meetings, and it just work.
Very good.
So this won't happen again until, I guess, in 2023, sometime.
All right. And so it's time for the general manager's report.
One housekeeping item I was starting to write a note for. Jessica, being right on guard, caught a misstatement in it was item B, that we stated the wrong resolution number.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how you want to go on the record, and it was just a number. It was.
Yeah, I think we just say, he meant to say 2210 rather than 22.6.
That, well, yeah, we said 6 and it was 10.
That's right. So I think we just do a errata, just by saying, I think the vice president meant to say 10. It was just a misstatement.
Okay, so it's on the record.
Is that okay?
So that now was, they had the document in front of them,
Yes.
and the document is
That's fine.
titled different. So that's what.
We all knew what was being adopted, so I think
Okay,
informal correction is just fine.
perfect. Okay.
Very good.
I'm attending 2 conferences next week, the CSDA, Special District Association General Managers Meeting, which is held once a year, and that's nearby in San Diego, so attending that, and I can report more in the next meeting. It's something that's different, and it's kind of taken on a life of its own. Our tablet and our accountability system for maintenance, which is something we worked on for the last 2 or 3 years, and we developed it ourselves. It's powered by a company known as Esri, and they're the satellite people. So to give you a good example, Uber, Lyft, most of our phones use Esri, those little cars that go around and those maps and all that. And I actually, how it all started before I even came here, Um, I've been interested in it, you know, the geography. I wish I'd gone into that big, like the owner of this, worth 8.6 billion last time I checked. Local guy too, right? He went to Cal Poly Pomona, majored in geography, and now he's all worldwide. Anyway, it's an interesting story. But they have a users conference. And this year it's in San Diego. And how I got introduced to them is before I came to work here, I actually did some tour guiding of Palm Springs at the Esri conference. So I had a guy from China who spoke perfect English, explain what Esri was, and then he took my phone and showed me that this is how this works. Anyway, so that was my interest. Then I talked to World As IT person. Is it possible that we could, you know, run an Esri program, kind of like Uber or Lyft, you know, and record all the work they do, which is now up and running. So anyway, you know, I get emails because I was only involved with them in the startup. And so we have like an account manager and all that, make sure that, you know, our system works and works with World As IT. So anyway, I said, well, you know, I keep getting this email. And that was such a huge conference in Palm Springs. It's down in San Diego. Maybe I'll go check it out and see, you know, I'm now a user. Before I was just on the outside. So I put in an application, and then our manager or whatever calls Jessica and says, does he really want to do this? And Teresa and her, I guess, had a conversation. Maybe the guy is, you know, passed over to Sonelli. Why would he want to go? But I just am interested since it's a big part of our filing system here now. Just to know a little bit more about it. And it's just, if I don't like it, I'll just go back, you know, from San Diego. So then Jessica, am I telling this right? She says, she calls you and says, well, he's a CEO of our client. And so I'm going to nominate him to go the day before where the owner of Esri has client CEOs for the day. Meaning I have to go Sunday. So is this right, Jessica? So then she put my name in or whatever, and 2 days later I get an email from Dagermont, whatever the billionaire. Dangermont, yeah, saying, come spend the day with us, and we'll pick up the conference, no problem. Wow, that's great. So the only problem is that in that room, I'm sure I'm gonna have to invent some patter here, because I will be, if this is just the CEOs of their clients, I will be their smallest client. If somebody says, look how many people that you oversee, including me, But anyway, I think, you know, at least that name should be interesting. And ultimately, I really think that in the back of my mind, that we may be able to market the system. That's what really is what I want to check out. Because I think there's a lot of little agencies. You go up in Northern California and stuff like this, that those satellites, it does, you know, it's like you know, the satellite always works, you know. So, you know, being out in the country, I mean, there's more small agencies in this country than there are large ones. So anyway, it's just in the back of my mind. I don't know, maybe a bust, I'll tell you that. But so anyway, I'm doing that in the middle of July.
All right, great.
Vice President Bowman, we have Shauna Janko who would like to address the board.
It's too late.
Hi, I just have a quick question for Jim Desmond. It's really not a question. It's really, I have sent communications to you before via email. And I don't believe that my emails actually got to the board of directors or to Mr. Simmons.
Thank
You're welcome.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're past the
Public comment.
public comment section, so we can't accept them right now. But be with us on the next meeting. Is that all for your report? Mr. Simmons, you have a report for us?
So I've been reporting to you the last couple of months of that we're trying to schedule a mediation for this lawsuit about the, trying to seek reimbursement for the cleanup on Wisconsin Road from a couple of years ago. It still has not been scheduled. It's going off calendar, on calendar, and then somebody, the mediator has a conflict. Anyway, that's still going on, trying to even just find a date to meet. So we're still trying to meet with the mediator. That's my report for the month.
All right. In that case, any other comments or questions from the board?
I just have, what's the next meeting? Do you need a date?
The 20th, I believe, July 20th.
July 20th. Okay. So I will be out of the country. So I guess I can just beep in from wherever I'm at.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, just on Zoom.
If you're in contact with the web, you should be able to get it.
Okay. That'll work. It'll work since you were mentioning technology. It'll work where I'm at, hopefully. Okay.
Very good. All right.
Just to go on my report, after the meeting adjourns, we need to make the plans for the CSDA annual conference at the end of August.
Yes.
So if we could just touch base with one of the folks here and say yay, nay, whatever, and then we will know how to answer their reservations. So.
With that then, the meeting is adjourned.